Every person faces problems, but not every person knows how to face them. The difference is not in the problem itself, but in the state of the one who stands before it. There is one powerful shift, one practice that can change how you meet any challenge. To tackle any problem with power and grace, the first movement must be inward, because before any action there must be stillness. Before any solution there must be clarity, and before any clarity there must be a pause. This is the first and often the most overlooked discipline, to simply stop, not because you are giving up, but because you are choosing to see, not through panic, not through noise, but through awareness. Imagine a man standing at the edge of a storm. If he runs into the wind without thought, he is blown off his path. But if he stands still, observes the clouds, feels the direction of the wind, and anchors his breath, then he knows how to move. This is how the Shaolin tradition teaches us to respond to challenge, not with reaction, but with reflection. This space between what happens and what we do next is where transformation lives. In our modern lives, we are conditioned to respond instantly. We answer messages without thought, we argue before listening, we make decisions with tension in our shoulders and fire in our chests. This habit becomes dangerous when we apply it to our real problems. Because real problems demand presence, not panic. They need you to be there fully, not half here, half lost in thoughts that belong to yesterday or worries about tomorrow. So when a problem comes, breathe. Allow yourself to feel the first wave of discomfort, but do not move, do not speak. Let the silence rise like a mountain before you. In that space, you begin to see differently. The situation slows down, the pieces reveal themselves. Instead of one big monster, it becomes a collection of smaller challenges, each with its own shape, its own truth. The breath is your first ally in this pause, not deep for show, but deep for understanding. Place your attention on it. Feel it move through you like wind through a forest, steady, natural, unforced. With each breath you step back inward, and what you begin to notice is that many problems are not as solid as they first appear. They are made heavier by your thoughts, by the stories you attach to them, by the identity you tie into them. I am the kind of person who always fails. I can never get this right. These thoughts become weights. But when you pause, when you return to the breath, the weights begin to fall away. Now you are no longer reacting from the past or projecting into the future. Now you are here, only here. And this is where power returns. This is where the path reveals itself. A reactive mind cannot see options. It sees only threat. It screams, act now. But a still mind watches, it listens, and then it moves, not fast but precise. Like the crane that waits above the river, still for hours until the right moment, then it strikes. People confuse action with progress, but without presence, action is just movement. A leaf in the wind has motion, but it has no direction. This is why the pause matters. This is why stillness is the most powerful form of control, because it means you are choosing your path, not being pushed along someone else's. It takes courage to pause because the world is loud. It tells you that fast is better, that answers must be immediate, that not knowing is weakness, but the Shaolin tradition teaches something different, to not know and still be calm. That is strength, to face the unknown and not reach for distraction. That is mastery. When you pause, you reclaim your energy, you gather your spirit, and you prepare yourself not to fight the problem, but to meet it fully awake. There will be moments where pausing feels like doing nothing, where the pressure builds and you feel the urge to speak, act, decide, fix, resist it. Listen more, breathe deeper, allow that wave to pass. Because if you act before it passes, you are not solving the problem, you are feeding the fire. But when you allow that energy to settle, your actions become simple, pure. They do not come from fear, they come from clarity. And this is the difference between chaos and calm. You can train this like any other skill. Start with small things. Feel irritation rising in a conversation. Pause. Feel the breath in your body. Do not respond yet, just feel. And in that feeling you will find something surprising, a choice, the ability to go left or right or not move at all. And this is freedom, not to be ruled by your emotions, but to work with them as a master works with his tools. They do not control him, they serve him. In time this habit becomes natural. You face something difficult and your first instinct is not to run or to speak, but to breathe. Your first move is to return to yourself, to your center, and from this place you can move anywhere. From this stillness you are unshakable, because you are no longer reacting. You are responding, and a response is always stronger than a reaction. So this is the powerful hack that opens the door to all the others. Pause, feel, breathe, and let the storm pass before you walk into it, not because you are afraid, but because you are wise. The wise warrior wins before the battle even begins, and he wins because he knows how to wait, how to watch, how to walk with purpose. Return to your breath, return to your center. The answer is already there, waiting in the silence, waiting for you to be still enough to hear it. When you begin to understand that the mind cannot function clearly if the body is not aligned, you will see that most of our difficulties are not just mental, they are physical too. The tension you carry in your shoulders, the shallow breath, the stiffness in your chest, all of it speaks louder than your thoughts, because the body does not lie. The body reveals what the mind tries to hide. Often when we face a problem, we try to solve it by thinking harder, by analyzing more, by talking to more people, by consuming more information. But all of this happens while the body remains in a disturbed state, and this disturbance creates noise. Even the sharpest mind cannot find clarity when the body is in disharmony. This is why we say, before you solve anything, return to the breath, return to the body, because the wisdom you seek is already present, but your inner storm hides it from you. The breath is not only a physical process, it is a mirror of your inner world. When you are calm, your breath is deep. When you are afraid, it becomes shallow. When you are angry, it becomes sharp, and when you are lost, it disappears. When you bring awareness to your breath, you bring awareness to your life. You begin to notice the moment you shifted from peace to tension, from presence to distraction, from clarity to confusion. And the beauty of this practice is that it requires nothing but attention. You don't need to go anywhere or do anything. Just feel your breath where it is right now and follow it. In our training at the monastery, we begin every practice not with movement, but with stillness. We sit, we breathe, we align the body, not to look strong, but to become aware of the energy flowing through us. This alignment connects body, mind, and breath. When these three are in harmony, the impossible becomes possible. It is not about forcing solutions, it is about becoming the kind of person that solutions come to easily, naturally, without struggle. Many people chase motivation, hoping that a spark will lift them above their problems, but they do this with a restless body. They sit with tension and wonder why peace does not come. They walk with tight muscles and wonder why the world feels heavy. But how can the world feel light when your own being is clenched like a fist? The breath teaches you to release, to open, to soften, not in weakness, but in readiness. When the body is soft, the mind becomes sharp. A sharp mind in a relaxed body is a powerful combination because it allows you to move from stillness, not from agitation. You begin to act not out of pressure, but out of intention. And your actions carry a different energy. They are clean, direct, without waste. They come from awareness, not reaction. This is why we say wisdom lives in the breath, not because the breath is magic, but because the breath is truth. Every time you become aware of your breath, you return to reality, not the imagined reality built from thoughts, not the future you fear or the past you regret, but the present moment. And the present is the only place where action exists, where power exists, where life is real. Problems do not live in the present, they live in memory and projection. But solutions are born now in this moment, and this moment begins with the breath. If you feel overwhelmed by a situation, first notice your body, notice your posture, notice your breath, and then adjust. If your shoulders are lifted, let them drop. If your chest is tight, allow it to expand. If your face is tense, let it soften. Then take one deep breath and feel it all the way down to your belly, and again, until your mind begins to follow the breath like a river flowing back to its source. You will notice something changing your thoughts. Slow your heartbeat, calms your eyes, see more clearly, and your perspective begins to shift. This shift is everything, because it means you are no longer inside the problem, you are now observing it. You have created space, and in that space there is power. The same problem you could not face a few moments ago now seems different because you are different. And this is the essence of transformation. Not changing the outside first, but changing your inner state first. The outside follows the inner, never the opposite. Breath is the anchor. It is the bridge between the body and the mind, and it is always available, even in the most difficult moment, even when nothing else is clear. Your breath is there, faithful, consistent, patient. It does not judge, it does not argue. It simply moves in and out like the tide, reminding you that you are alive, that you are here, and that here is enough. There are many techniques to master the breath. Some use counting, some use rhythm, some use sound, but the most powerful technique is presence. Just be with it. Watch it, follow it, allow it to show you where you are holding. Allow it to guide you back into balance. And with practice, this becomes natural. You will face a problem, and instead of collapsing into thought, you will return to breath, and the breath will show you the way. You do not need to rush. You do not need to force. Just align yourself with your breath and your body. And from that place, your steps will be guided, not by fear, not by confusion, but by clarity. This is how we train at the Shaolin Temple. We do not start with solving problems, we start with solving ourselves. We align breath, body and mind, and from that alignment, everything becomes simple. When the breath is calm, the mind becomes still. When the mind is still, the world opens. When the world opens, the path becomes clear. So when the next challenge comes, do not try to think your way out of it. Feel your way into it through the breath, through the body, through presence. Because presence is where all power begins. Everything you need is already within you, waiting to be remembered in the quiet rhythm of your breath. When the mind is calm and the breath is steady, the next movement is to see clearly, not just feel clearly, but to see with precision, because the problem is not always as it appears at first. Many times, what looks like a wall is actually a fog. What feels like a heavy weight is often scattered fragments combined into one illusion of difficulty. This is where the third step comes into play, to simplify the problem, to cut it cleanly like a sword through confusion, not to fight the problem, but to reveal its shape and make it manageable. In the Shaolin path, we are not taught to overwhelm the mind with the size of the mountain. Instead, we are taught to study the path ahead with the eyes of a tracker. See where the earth is soft, where the slope is steep, where the air is thin. Every detail matters, but only when it is seen one by one clearly. The mistake most people make is that they face the problem all at once. They feel everything at the same time, the fear, the weight, the urgency, and so they freeze or they rush. Both of these come from being overwhelmed. You must learn to divide, to separate what is yours from what is not yours, what is in your control from what is beyond it, what is true from what is assumed. Because many problems are not heavy because they are real. They are heavy because they are tangled in fear and imagination and opinion. The sword of simplicity cuts through this not with aggression but with clarity. This is why we ask questions, not to find more information, but to uncover what matters. The first question is always, what can I influence? Not what do I want, not what should be, but what can I truly affect in this moment? Without changing the world, without changing another person, without pretending just me now. This question is powerful because it brings you back from fantasy to truth. It shows you the space where action is possible, even if it is small. When you realize that not everything in a problem belongs to you, something releases inside you. Because now you are carrying only what is yours, and this is always lighter than what you thought. Suddenly, you are not trying to fix the entire situation. You are only handling your part. And this is where energy returns. This is where motivation is no longer needed, because the task is now clear, and clarity always moves forward. In combat, we are trained to respond to the immediate threat, not the imagined one. If your opponent throws a punch, you do not think about the next 5 moves. You focus on this strike, now, this moment, now. You simplify, and from that simplicity comes clean movement. In the same way, when life throws a problem at you, respond to what is here, not what might come, not what others might think, not what happened before. Only this moment, this step, this breath. Sometimes the act of writing the problem down on paper already begins to untangle it. When you see it outside of your mind, it loses some of its force. You begin to notice how many of the thoughts around it are just noise, echoes of fear or habit or stories you've told yourself for years. I always fail, people never support me, this always happens. These are not facts. They are stories, and stories have to be questioned or they become prisons. So take the problem and ask yourself, what are the actual facts, not the feelings, not the opinions, not the predictions, but the facts. Then ask, which of these can I influence today? And what is one small movement I can make in that direction, even a little one? Because action creates momentum, and momentum breaks paralysis. And once you are moving even slowly, you are no longer stuck. You will also notice that when you simplify a problem, it often becomes boring. And this is good, because problems that seem overwhelming usually have an emotional charge that makes them feel big. But when you reduce them to clear steps, they lose that fire. They become just something to do, just something to carry. And you realize that the storm was in the mind, not in the task. If you do not simplify your problems, they grow in the shadows. They collect fear and gain weight and begin to spread into other parts of your life. One problem becomes 5 because the mind cannot hold confusion without cost. But when you cut clearly, when you strip away the noise, what remains is always something you can face. And this is the key to inner strength. To face not the imagined weight of life, but the actual shape of each challenge, and to respond with presence. A Shaolin monk does not fear complexity, he simply does not get lost in it, because he has trained to look through it with steady eyes and a quiet mind. When a challenge arrives, he breathes, he observes, he moves when movement is necessary, and he rests when resting is the path. There is no wasted motion, because he has simplified his inner world, and so his outer actions are direct and clean. Simplicity is not about avoiding the hard truth. It is about facing only the truth, not the decorations around it, not the fear built on top of it, not the stories attached to it, only the truth. And the truth is always smaller than the fear. It looks smaller because it is no longer swollen by anxiety. When you face only the truth, you become free to move again. Do not try to solve problems in your head alone. The mind is a good tool, but it is also a mirror, and mirrors can distort under pressure. Use the breath, use the body, use the practice of writing, use the power of speech to someone who can reflect clearly back to you. But most importantly, use the sword of simplicity, because that sword is always sharp and always available to the one who trains with it. You were not meant to carry everything, you were meant to carry only what is real. And when you carry only what is real, you walk lighter, you move faster, you see farther, and you realize that many problems are not to be solved, but to be understood. And once they are understood, they often dissolve. Return to the breath, return to the body, cut through the noise and walk forward only with what matters. When the mind has been calmed by stillness and the body returned to through breath, and the problem has been cut down to its true size through simplicity, then the final movement is to walk, not in rush, not in fear, but with steady discipline. This is where many people stop. They wait for a feeling, they wait for motivation, they wait until it feels right. But waiting is not the way a warrior moves. A warrior does not wait for perfect conditions. The warrior becomes the condition. Discipline is not about pushing harder. It is not punishment. It is the quiet agreement you make with yourself that you will show up no matter how you feel. It is the decision that your path will not be decided by your mood or the weather or the opinions of others. It will be decided by your inner alignment, by your choice to move forward because it is the right thing to do, not because it feels easy or exciting. Most people think discipline is about effort, but true discipline is about rhythm. It is the rhythm of your breath, the rhythm of your training, the rhythm of your attention. It is about showing up again and again and again until the mountain becomes a path. Not because the mountain changed, but because your steps became consistent enough to shape the earth beneath them. When you repeat something with full presence, it begins to transform, not just the task, but the one who does it. In the monastery we train the same movements every day, not because we are slow to learn, but because the repetition changes our relationship with the movement. At first the mind resists, it wants novelty, but over time the body remembers and the practice becomes part of you. The same must happen in your life. When facing a problem, do not ask how many steps it will take, ask only what is the next step, and then take it fully with presence, with integrity. Then do the next and trust that even the tallest tree grows from the smallest root, repeated again and again, in silence and stillness. Discipline is the form that protects your energy when motivation fades. Motivation is a firework. It rises quickly, then falls back to darkness. Discipline is the sun. It rises every day, not with noise but with certainty. This is why we do not rely on how we feel, we rely on what we have chosen. We rely on the path we have committed to, because that commitment is stronger than emotion, stronger than doubt, stronger even than fear. You may feel like stopping, but if your breath is still steady and your body is still grounded, then keep going. One more movement, one more task, one more act of clarity, because every time you choose action over hesitation, you become more than who you were the day before. And this growth is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is quiet. It is slow. It is real. There will be days when the mind says, I don't want to. There will be moments when the body says, I am tired. There will be times when nothing around you seems to support your effort. This is where discipline becomes your greatest teacher, not because it forces you, but because it invites you to remember why you began. It reminds you that transformation is not one moment. It is a process that unfolds over many silent, consistent days. Every step you take in discipline rewrites your inner story. It tells the body, I am capable. It tells the mind, I am focused. It tells the spirit, I am committed. And slowly the problem begins to change. Not because it shrinks, but because you have grown in size. You have become the person who can face it, who can carry it, who can overcome it. This is what most people miss. They want the problem to be easier, but the way is not to wait for easier. The way is to become stronger, more present, more stable, and this strength comes only through practice. Not sometimes, but daily, like the flow of water, shaping stone, not through force, but through time. In the Shaolin path we say, train every day not to be the best, but to remember who you are every day, the same movements every day, the same breath every day, the same discipline, because through this you become unshakable, not just in the temple but in life. When difficulty comes, you are not surprised, you are not broken, you simply breathe, return and continue, because this is what you have trained for. If you take one clear step every day, you will move through any challenge. Maybe not quickly, but certainly. The one who moves slowly but never stops will always go farther than the one who runs but falls from exhaustion. So choose the slow path. Choose the steady path, not because it is easier, but because it is lasting. And let your discipline be gentle. It does not need to be harsh, it needs to be true. Let it be the quiet voice inside that says, again. Let it be the steady hand that rises even when the heart is unsure, because this is how the spirit becomes strong, through movement, through breath, through choice made again and again in silence. You do not need to feel ready, you do not need to feel powerful, you only need to begin, and then begin again, and then again. And this is how any problem is overcome, not by sudden breakthrough, but by daily presence, not by waiting for a sign, but by becoming the sign, by showing yourself that you will walk, no matter the weight, no matter the weather, no matter the outcome. Return to the breath, return to the step, walk with discipline, and let the path unfold through your devotion.